A lot of people jumping in, looks like. I see a lot of familiar names. All right, we've got about 45 about people joined in, so I think we can probably get rolling right now. So welcome everybody. Let's see, like I said, I see a lot of familiar names and a lot of well, I'm not seeing any familiar faces because there's no video, but I see a lot of familiar names. So welcome to the webinar that we're doing today on the Effortless Office, unlocking Microsoft Outlook and Teams for smarter digital collaboration. So excited to bring this to you guys. For those of you that don't know me, I think most people do know who I am. My name is Paul Sponcia. I'm the CEO of the IT company. We're hosting the webinar today. Again, if you don't know who we are, we're a managed service provider here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We provide IT services to medium and small businesses throughout the Knoxville region, usually within 50, 60 miles of here. And this webinar that we're doing, this series of webinars that we're doing, is part of a long series that we're trying to put together, just educational webinars to bring value to people who want to just increase their knowledge, and especially in all different things IT. So thanks for coming. Excited to have you. So I want to introduce our trainer today. I want to introduce housekeeping. That's what I want to do next. So big thing is, if you have questions, make sure you put them in the chat, and we'll either answer them as we go along, or we'll stop the webinar and talk about them. We may answer them in the chat. It just depends. We will have a Q&A at the end as well. But please put questions that you have in the chat as we're going. And of course, we are recording this webinar, so it'll be available in the future as well if you want to download it and rewatch it. So now I think I get to introduce our trainer today as JoLynn Reen, and I'm gonna just turn it over to JoLynn and let her introduce herself and get things rolling.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Paul. So welcome everybody to our session today. Excited to talk about topics that are near and dear to my heart. Something that, we kind of think about when we talk about IT and we talk about using our software. Everybody has habits. And when it comes to the habits that we have, my habit is when I log in the morning, I automatically have Outlook open, I have Microsoft Teams open, and those are our main focus of our topic here today, because these are things that we're using every day. So we want to introduce you to, or remind you of, if you're already familiar, remind you of some features that we have available when we're working with Outlook 365 or using Microsoft Teams. And we'll talk a little bit about the integration that the two programs have, which is very common now, of course, in your Microsoft 360 apps, which is pretty cool. So there was a handout that was actually sent to you via email prior to the session. If you want to make sure you have that open, you can use that to follow along. Otherwise, of course, that handout is nice to have for after we get done with the session, so you can go back and kind of revisit the topics that we went through. If you didn't receive the email for whatever reason, we do have it in the chat as well. So Macy did put the link to that out in the chat. All right. Yes.
JoLynn, I'm just real quick. It is not letting me send the link to everybody in the chat, okay, but I send it to you. If you wouldn't mind to send it in the group chat, I think just since you're the host, you'll have to send it.
Sounds perfect. Thank you. So we'll get that out there just to make sure everybody does have a copy of it. And if you do have it open, what I wanted to start with here today is really talking about Microsoft Outlook, because Microsoft Outlook is such a relevant program for everybody to use on a day-to-day basis. We can, of course, be using Outlook online. You can use the desktop version, and of course, you can use it on your phone as well. So we don't have to worry about where we are. We have access to the information inside Outlook. But I want to talk about taking advantage of the program, because yes, we all go in and we send and receive email messages, and we probably put some, store our emails inside folders and things like that. But let's take this a little bit further and talk about some features that are available that are going to help you stay organized, either getting organized or staying organized. When it comes to working in Outlook, right now, what you're seeing on my screen is I'm using the desktop version of Outlook. And what I'm seeing right now is I'm using what is referred to as the reading pane. The reading pane is a view in Outlook. Every part of Outlook has different ways to look at your information, and every folder can have a different view. Take advantage of these views because they can help you manage your messages or find the messages that you want to focus on. So I'm going to go to the View tab of the ribbon. And on the View tab of the ribbon, there's several different things that I want to briefly mention. First, I'm going to turn off my reading pane. So I'm going to go over to the Layout group. I'm going to click on Reading Pane, and I'm basically going to turn it off. Because when you don't have the reading pane on, you get the kind of the old look of what we always had with the columns and rows. But sometimes I actually like this view in some of my folders because it depends on how I want to look at things. If I'm just kind of analyzing the information in the email, I don't need to be replying or forwarding. This is actually a good view to have. So there's an arrangement group on the ribbon. And I'm still on the View tab of the ribbon. By default, your emails are organized regardless of which view you're in. They're organized by date. So your newest messages, of course, come to the top. But there's times that I need to organize my information differently. Like, let's say that I want to see things based on size. If I click on size from the arrangement group, now I'm grouped by size of my messages. And I'm just going to kind of jump up to the top here. I did Control Home to jump to the top of my list. And I can see that I have this category called huge. Then I have very large, I have large, etc. as it goes down. So what this allows me to do in this view is to see what could be taking up a lot of space based on the folder that I'm actively in. So I like using this because if I ever get the message saying you're about to exceed your limit in Outlook, this is something that is very beneficial to me because I can come in here and I could see which messages are the largest and maintain those. Most of them are going to have attachments to them. I could remove the attachments. Then I could delete the email if I don't need to see it anymore, if I don't need to store it. So there's a lot of ways that we want to look at our information differently to know what's going on. Also, something that I like about this view as well is we have this column. So everything in columns and rows, we can customize the columns as well, but there's this column called icon. And what it is showing me is if I replied to a message or I forwarded a message, I'm going to see an icon in this column. So I can see when I look at some of these, I've got the kind of the eggplant color, the arrow going to the left. That is letting me know that I replied to that message. Or this blue arrow is showing me that I actually forwarded the message. So we get an at-a-glance look at background information about the emails without having to open it or go to someplace else. All these columns and rows can be very helpful. Also, I have a column called mention. This mention lets me know that I was mentioned in a couple of emails. So it's displaying the @ symbol. But like I said, these columns can actually be customized. That's beyond our scope today. So you could really be adding and removing whichever columns of data you want to see. But in this group called Arrangement on the ribbon, you have other options as well on how you can organize the view of your messages. So if I want to have all of the files or emails that have attachments, I could click attachments. So it's going to first show me all the emails that have an attachment, then it's going to group them together based on ones that don't have attachments. So as you can see, there's a lot of different options as far as changing your view. Other things that I want to mention, and I'm going to actually jump back to my reading pane. So I'm going to go back to my layout. I'm going to click on reading pane, and I'm going to turn my reading pane on to the right. This is what I typically use when I'm actually in my inbox. The reason that I use this is because of the fact that whatever I click on, it's going to automatically show me the contents of that message on the right-hand side. So every time I click on an email, you see it on the right-hand side of the screen. Best part about this, well, not the best part, but one of the benefits of this is the fact that on the right-hand side of the screen, we have the reply all, and the forward options. We don't have to worry about going back to the ribbon to the home tab to be able to do that. It's all right here. But what I like that they've recently added in is on the right-hand side, I have the icon for Teams. If I click on the icon for Teams, it's going to give me a drop-down message or drop-down list. And from here, I could share the email to Teams and choose which team and or channel I want it to go to. If it were an email from a coworker or a regular email, let me kind of show you what I mean by this. So if I'm on an email from someone and I go to that Teams, I can actually chat with that person as well. So if they're, because the other message that I was on was more of a generic message, but if I'm on a message with a person, I would actually be able to chat back with that person or a group of people. So you get different choices depending on, of course, what you're clicked on. And on the right-hand side of the Teams icon, you have the menu, the dot, dot, dot. If you click on that, you could actually create a meeting with the people that were a part of that email. So I'm going to click on that so you can see what that actually does, because I had an email that had a couple of other people that were included on it. So what it actually did was started a new appointment, and it automatically attached who the email was related to. So if they were part of the CC, it's going to invite them to this meeting. It takes the subject and puts it in the title. It puts the contents of the actual email in the body of the appointment, which of course you can modify and, put your date and your time and everything as well. So I really like taking advantage of what they have directly on the screen, because it's the most common things that you would probably do when you receive an email. So back to the menu at the top right again, that dot, dot, dot menu. From there, I could also forward this email as an attachment. So instead of just forwarding the message, if I wanted to actually go as an email attachment in a message, I could do that as well. Probably not as common for myself anyway. I also could make a call to the person. The call would go directly through Microsoft Teams. I also have Translate. So if I needed to translate the message from one language to another, I have that capability as well. So on the actual reading pane itself, we have some great features. And if we happen to click reply all, or forward, that's actually going to change, of course, what we see on the right-hand side. We're responding right in the reading pane itself, because we don't always need the full window of the email to just send a message back saying, hey, thanks, great, got the information, we'll see you next week. I don't need a lot. I can just send things back. So when you come into this, what it's going to show you is you have a new tab on the ribbon. When you're in the reply or the forward, you get a message tab. It's going to give you the most common features that you would use when you're replying or forwarding. So I could still attach files and things like that. I could set priorities. I could still be doing a lot of different things, but I don't need everything. So I really like this. Now, let's say that I started responding. If I happen to go to a different message because I saw I had a new email that just came in, if I want to go and click on that message, all I have to do is click on the message, but it saves what I was responding to the other person as a draft. So I can see next to this Lois person, I have draft. So I know that I had started responding. You know, instead of me having to close it, save it, and go to my drafts folder, we can take advantage of this while we're using the reading pane. So I could go back and read other things. I come back to that message again, and I can continue responding. But what if I decide I don't want to send the message right now? At the top right, because I'm in reply or forward, I could discard this. So if I don't want the message, I change my mind, I could click discard and it cancels it. But if I do need additional features, I can always go back and click pop out. Pop out is going to open the message in the full window. When you are in the full window, of course, you have access to everything on the ribbon. And Macy, did someone have a question? You're muted. Sorry.
That's okay. We did. We had somebody ask if there was a difference between the Outlook app and the Outlook Online.
Yes, a little bit. So let me, and in a second, I'm going to go into the online version so that they can see the difference as to what we have versus the desktop version. So I'll get to that in just a second. Thank you. So when I'm in this full window, I have the capabilities of using absolutely every feature that's available within the desktop version. So what I want to point out here is a couple of different features that I use regularly. If I go to the Insert tab, yes, I can insert so many different things. I use the loop components a lot, which could be another topic someday. I could do all these illustrations. But what I use a lot is this quick parts. Quick parts is actually coming from, the concept is coming from Microsoft Word. If I click quick parts, if I have information that I repeat on a regular basis in my emails or my appointments and any part of Outlook, I can use these quick parts to save that block of data. Then I can insert it whenever I need it. So I have one of these saved. It's called List of Classes. If I want to include that in this email, I just click on it and it automatically inserts that body of data. So Quick Parts has saved me so much time and effort, because if you have a special way that you like to kind of sign off on an email, depending on who you're communicating with, that's a great way to do that. Save it as a quick part. All you have to do is select the data, and it can be an image, it doesn't matter. It can be an image, a graphic, whatever. Then go to Quick Parts, click Save Selection to Quick Parts Gallery, give it a name, and then click OK. That would then save it so that if you want to reuse it over and over again in the future, all you have to do is go to Quick Parts, click on the name of the one that you want to insert, and it will automatically insert it. So if you haven't been taking advantage of that, highly recommend you do. Great option. One other thing that I want to mention while I'm in here is the fact that if we go to the Options tab of the ribbon, on the right-hand side in the More Options group, there's a feature called Delayed Delivery. We have a lot of great features with delaying the delivery of things. What this refers to is, let's not send the message right now. As a matter of fact, Microsoft, I work a lot at night. I work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, basically. And when I go to create an email at night, it actually gives me an information pop-up that basically says, do you want to wait and send this when it's during business hours? So we have the capability of delaying the delivery of a message. Macy, did you have a question? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry.
No
We had
problem.
two questions that came through. The first one is there a way to have a company-wide quick part instead of per user?
Unfortunately, there is not a way to have that be standard as far as Outlook is concerned. I think I found a workaround in Microsoft Word for their quick parts, but I have not found anything that I have that's universal for Outlook. So unfortunately, I would have to say no, but it's so easy to create. It's so easy that it's only going to take them a couple of seconds to create it. Okay. Did you have another question?
Yes, somebody said, I don't see a quick part on my ribbon. How do we turn that on?
So quick part should actually be on the ribbon if they are in the desktop version and they open the window as the full email. We can't see it when we're in the reading pane. You have to pop out the window to have access to it. Okay. So hopefully that will help them. Okay.
And then we have one more. The last
Yes.
one is in toggling back and forth between old Outlook and new Outlook. It looks like some of these features are not accessed the same way. Do we know if these will continue to be accessed differently?
So when it comes to old version versus new version, depending on what version they're referring to, the quick parts has actually been around forever. Not forever, but it's been around for quite a few years. I mean, I'm talking back in 2013, 2000, probably 2003. It's been around for a very long time and it's always been in the same place. So it hasn't moved at all. So I'm not sure if they're using an online version or their mobile device, because of course, some of those features aren't going to be available unless you're in desktop. Okay. But just to finish up real quick on this dialog box that I have open, I went into the delay delivery, and basically I have this do not deliver before checked, where I could actually say that I don't want this to be delivered until 8 a.m. on Monday. So we can always have it sit in the outbox until that date and time, it will automatically send the message. This to me is a fantastic option. But like I said, it will actually pop up if I'm working at night or early in the morning. It will actually pop up when I'm typing my message and I already have the people chosen. It will actually ask me right at the top of my screen if I want to delay that delivery. But that's with the newest version of Outlook. So how do you know if you have the newest version of Outlook? Look at the left-hand side of the screen. If your navigation is still at the bottom left, you don't have the latest version. They are now located on the left-hand side of the screen. Now, there is another new version of the user interface that is coming out. I do not have that turned on right now. As a matter of fact, at my top right, I have this try the new Outlook. I don't have that turned on right now because it's very new. Okay, just so you know. So I'm going to actually leave this message. I'm not going to reply to it or anything. I'm just going to go to another message that I have here. So when it comes to the handout, just so you know, everything that I've been mentioning is included in your handout, including at the top of page 2, the Teams integration in Outlook. So when I'm in that reading pane on the right-hand side, I have the integration with Microsoft Teams by clicking on that Teams icon. Okay. But we also have the capability of using a share to Teams on the menu at the top. So if you look at the home tab of the ribbon, when you are selected on an email, you have this share to Teams, where if I click on share to Teams, it's going to allow me to choose. Sorry, let me maximize this out here for you so you can see what I'm showing you. Bring that back here. Come on. So what this is basically doing is allowing me to share this specifically to a channel and or a team. So we have integration from one app to another all the time. Okay, so I really like that. I think it's a super feature that we can use because nobody wants to switch one program to do something. We have a lot of integration from one place to another. So I was just going to actually open up my online version because that question had come up. So let me maximize my online version. And let me just pop into Outlook Online. just so everybody can see what we get as differences when we are in that online version. So basically, you're going to have that same similar user interface. By the way, Microsoft is trying to integrate these to be a lot more similar, which is part of that new look that Microsoft Outlook has with the desktop version. They're trying to make things look a lot more similar to each other. But when we actually select an email, by default, it is using the reading pane. But you're going to see that you have limited capabilities on the ribbon. We do have a view tab. From the view tab, we do have the capability of going to reading pane, and we can hide it. So that is something that can be turned off, just so you're aware that that's a capability. If I create a new email, so if I click on new email, by default, it's opening it in the reading pane. It doesn't by default, like in the desktop, it opens it as the full window. At the top right, though, I can click on this arrow, this little square with an arrow to open it in the full window. But what you're going to see is on the Insert tab, we're not seeing the same features. We don't get all of those bells and whistles that we do in the desktop version. So here in the online version, you will not be seeing that quick part option. Okay, just so you could see that's not here. Okay. Otherwise, to be honest, I really like the online version. I use my phone quite a bit as well. So the mobile version of Outlook, I don't always need all those bells and whistles. So if I have them, great. But if I don't need them, this works great to be in the online version. But like I said, they're trying to integrate it so that they look similar, more similar to each other. So they'll have the same kind of look and feel and the same features. Okay. But I do want to talk about a couple of different things that are actually related to kind of cleaning up your messages when you are actually in Outlook. At the bottom of page 3, we have this feature called Email Cleanup. I'm not sure if you have used this yet, but if you haven't, highly recommend it. So email cleanup is where we have a conversation going back and forth with other people, and this would allow you to clean up those redundant messages, because when I reply, there's a copy of the original that gets included. So the latest message is really the only one we need to keep. So I can actually be on an email and go to my home tab of the ribbon, click cleanup on the left-hand side in the delete group, and I can click cleanup conversation, and it's going to look for all redundant messages based on this conversation. And it's going to automatically move them to the deleted items folder. Now, this particular message didn't have any redundancy to it, so there wasn't anything to clean up. But anytime that you have an email that's been going back and forth with the replies, that is an absolutely wonderful feature. I use it so regularly that I probably don't, it's my habit that I do this a lot, because, you know, I'm going to end up with 20 different messages that are related to the same thing. So using that cleanup helps me keep things organized. And I don't have to deal with, you know, 4,000 messages when really I only need 1,000 or 100 or whatever your case might be. So you do have some information in there about that. Going over to page 4 in your handout. Also at the bottom of page 4, going to page 5, I just want to mention that flagging messages is extremely common because it helps us to remember to follow through with a specific email. So when an email comes in, we have the capability of clicking on the left-hand side. So once you've read a message, if you want to have it being unread, go to the left-hand side, click the blue bar, and it's going to mark the message as being unread. Great way to kind of have them stand out again. But what if I've read it and I don't really need it to be marked as unread, but I actually want to remember to follow up with this email? I can actually flag the message. If you flag a message, which you could do so multiple ways, you could go to the flag, you can right click. If I right click, I could simply go into my follow-up and I could do an add reminder, because I like my pop-up reminders. And I'm going to say that I want to be reminded on the 31st at noon, at 12:30. Click OK, it automatically highlights the message and adds a red flag. And because I put a reminder on it, I also get the bell. Well, we'll take this a little bit further in a different class, but in your to-dos, so if we do a planner and a to-do class, in your to-dos, you can actually view any of your flagged emails. So it has this category for flagged messages. So here's the one that I just flagged. So as you can see, we have access to kind of filtering what emails we want to see based on, we said we wanted to do something with that message. So it's a great option to use. If you haven't been using flags, highly recommend it. But one more thing I want to mention about Outlook before I transition over to Teams is starting at the bottom of page 5. It talks about using a feature called Quick Steps. So Quick Steps is located on the home tab of the ribbon. I've got this gallery of choices here of the default templates that come with Quick Steps. Let me give you a scenario. So I do a lot of project management. I teach it, I manage projects, whatever the case might be, help people with their methodologies. And let's say that every week on a Friday, I need to send out an email to the same group of people, maybe adding a person here and there, but it's usually the same group of people and it has the same body of the message. What I used to, it's got some changes to it a little bit, but what I used to do was go to my sent items, find the most recent one that I had sent out, like from last week, then I would modify it and send it out again to the group as the new message. Well, of course, that didn't go so well sometimes because I was sending it to my executive committee and I forgot to take some of the old information out of it. And of course, I got called out on it right away and I was extremely embarrassed because of the fact that I know better. You know I should have looked through the email better and made sure that the old information was out. I thought I need to come up with a better way, a more efficient way to be doing this. And I decided I was going to use Quick Steps. So let me walk you through how I could actually do this and have it be maintained as a new email every single time without having to go back and do a reply or a forward with an old message and have to clean it up and all that. So if I go to the Quick Steps group, I'm going to click on the dialog box launcher at the bottom right to manage my Quick Steps. So what you're going to see is the default templates that it comes with. And we can have several different actions included with our Quick Steps. So one of them is to forward messages. I could have it automatically create a brand new message. I could mark something as being completed. I could reply and then delete. So there's a lot of different, it's similar to a rule, not quite like one, but what I'm going to do as a demonstration is create a new email because once a week I'm going to send out this email that will be my weekly status updates. So I'm going to click on this team email because when I look at the description on the right, the action is it's going to create a new message. So I'm going to duplicate this. Instead of overwriting the original, I'm going to duplicate it. So I keep the template. I'm going to make a copy of it. And basically what I'm going to do is give it a name. So I'm going to say weekly updates. And then under the actions, it already has new message selected, but just so you can see what your choices are, it's got a drop down list. And by the way, you can have more than one action. So I could have this be a new message. Then I could say, I want to forward it to this person, or I want to mark it as completed, or I want to delete it, or whatever the case would be. I could have it do multiple actions if needed, but I'm going to keep it on new message. And then I can click my to button and add in the people that I actually want to have as who this goes to. So I can, of course, be using my contacts. I can be using my global address list, whatever it is that I need. Okay. So I'll just go into my contacts and I'll say that I want these people. And then I'm going to click OK. Then on the right-hand side, I'm going to click Show Options because I can be putting in what the subject is. So every time I send it out, it's called the weekly status update. And then I can type in the text, or I could have copied and pasted it from a previous message. So I could say, you know, please send me your updates to the tests you worked on this week. And I would put all of that detail of what I want to include every single time I send this message. Now I'll stop there, but just so you know, you could type whatever you need. Down at the bottom left, I could choose another action. So after it does the new message, I could come back and I could choose another action to add in if I wanted to. I'm not going to at this point, but just so you could see, you could. I'm going to click finish. Once I click finish, I can see it listed on the left-hand side. I'm going to click OK. Every time I need to send that email out, I can go to the Quick Steps group, click on weekly updates. I'm going to get that brand new message that is already addressed to everybody that it needs to go to. I have my body of my email. Of course, I can make a couple of tweaks here and there, then click send, and it's ready to go. I don't have to worry about the embarrassment that I had before where I sent out the message and, of course, didn't delete all the old information. So Quick Steps is a great way to have a click of a button to have it do an action for you. Huge time saver. So that information carries over to page 6 in your handout and briefly on the top of page 7, which page 7 includes the quick parts that I had mentioned. Okay. So I'm going to transition over to the Teams, Microsoft Teams app on page 8 of your handout if you're following along. So Microsoft Teams, as I mentioned earlier, is one of these apps that I open immediately. Well, I have it in my startup. So it's something that I open and leave open all day long. I also use Teams on my phone. It's available as a desktop app. It's an online app. Online and desktop, they look the same. Phone, of course, looks a little bit different, but I use it to communicate with a group of people. It includes so many different aspects. It includes on the left-hand side, it's got this category called activities. You're going to notice that my Teams icon down on my taskbar has a red circle with a 1 in it. What that number is telling you is that you have that many new items in the application. So it draws your attention to know that you need to go to Teams. We get notifications all the time. You know, you get a new email, you can see that because it gives you the envelope icon, all of that. Well, Microsoft Teams gives you notifications at the bottom right. They're called a banner notification. And when you see that banner notification, you know that something new has come into Teams. You can respond, whatever the case might be. But we might miss something because I might be getting coffee or whatever the case would be. I'm not staring at my screen. So if we miss something, we still are notified in Teams that we have something new. So if you see the red circle with a number in it, you know that you should go to Teams because you have something new in there. If I look at my activity, that's where the new item is because that's where the red circle is with the number. If I click on activity, it's going to show me different details coming from multiple places within Microsoft 365. Right now, it is showing me that I had a file sent through SharePoint that was actually for an approval. And so I'm actually seeing information that was related to notifications. So that's another app in 365. So on the right-hand side, it's actually showing me that I can approve or reject that specific file that was sent to me for approval. I'm not going to do that right at the moment because I have to read through it. But that's what I'm seeing right now in my activity. So we can get different notifications coming from different applications through Microsoft Teams. So Teams is my go-to program. I use it as much as I use Outlook. And there's a lot of integration, of course, between the two. On the left-hand side, we have chatting capabilities, but it's much more than chatting. We can start a chat by just seeing someone's profile. So even if I'm in Microsoft Project, if I have someone's email address entered, I can hesitate and see their profile and be able to start a chat. I don't have to be in Microsoft Teams to initiate it. So right now I'm on a chat. And of course, on the right-hand side is where I can actually communicate and see the history of that chat. One of the things that I want to mention, that is relatively new with chatting is down at the bottom. When you go into your chat category, I'm going to reply back to this person or start a new chat. Maybe I'll say, how are things going with the new project? And I know that that person is not available right now. Now, how do I actually know that? If I look at their profile circle, I can see it in several different places. At the top of the chat itself, I can see that the last seen 8/7, they're free all day, this specific person. I can actually see that this person has a X on their icon. That's how we know if that person is available or not. So I know this person isn't even logged in on their computer right now. So I probably don't want to send this chat right now because they're actually not going to get it. They're not going to see it right away. We can delay the delivery of a chat. So at the bottom right, where you have your little paper airplane icon for send, if you right click on that, you can actually choose the date and the time that you want to have this be sent out. What an awesome feature. So I use that quite often now. So if I do need to delay the delivery and send it at a more appropriate time for them, you can choose to do that at any time. Otherwise, you just click send, and of course, they'll get a notification. Once they log in, they'll know that they have something new. Macy, did we have a question or a comment?
We did. Somebody asked, just so they're understanding correctly, you're using 365 online, but you have Teams client and also Outlook client open. Can all of this be done with 365 online?
Yes. So Microsoft Teams online, and I'll open it up just so you can see what I mean by this. I actually opened it through my desktop app. Doesn't matter. They all look the same and work the same. So if I jump back into my home tab of my Microsoft login, I can go back to my apps launcher, or if I have the icon on the left-hand side, and I can open up Teams from here. And it looks and feels the same as what my desktop version does. Now, of course, your mobile device is going to be a little bit different on the Teams, but I still get notifications on my mobile device. So if I'm in the, I ran to the office supply store or the closet to get something, and I have my phone with me because I don't leave my desk without it. If I get a notification, I'm going to get it on my phone. So I'm not going to miss it, which is pretty cool. So as you can see, it looks the same. I got the navigation on the left-hand side. Whatever I click on, I'm going to see exactly the same things. Okay. So good question to be asking. Okay. So chatting, very common, but there's so much more to this app than just chatting. On the left-hand side, we have this category called Teams. When we come into Teams, depending on how your organization is set up, you can have access to whatever teams you are either an owner, a member, or a guest of. So of course, there's different rights that we can be giving people when they come in. So when it comes to kind of using Microsoft Teams, if you are a member of a specific team, you're going to see it on the list. Like I have this HR department team, and then I have these different channels that are categorizing different topics related to the name of the team. So like I have this one called benefits. So if I'm part of the HR department, I can have a team that is specifically related to all of the, everybody that's in the department is a member of this team. We also can have inside these channels, we have what are called tabs, which are apps. So at the top right of the screen, by default, we will always have a post tab, which is a great way for us to communicate by doing chatting back and forth with the members of that team based on that specific channel. So if I'm in the benefits channel, I'm probably not going to talk about employment information in the post or the files or any of the other tabs, because that's not related to benefits. I would go to the employment channel to communicate based on employment information. So it's a great way to organize and to stay organized and work together as a team. We can have several different shared apps. As you can see, when I look at my tabs at the top of this employment channel, I have the Post tab, which is there by default. I have the Files tab, which by default, when a team is created, it's creating a SharePoint site. So this is a SharePoint document library. Whole new topic of a session we could do. But these are files that would be accessible to anyone that is a member, an owner, or a guest of that specific team. And other things to point out is we have shared capabilities with things like a planner. So if I click on this new employee task list, this is actually a planner where we can actually put all the things related to a specific project that we're working on. All of the tasks can be stored in one central location. We can be assigning tasks to other people that are within this team. So a great app to use within Teams. It can be used on its own. It can be used through To-Do. It also can be used directly here in Teams. We also I have this new employee, which is an Excel file. I can have quick, easy access for all of my members, owners, or guests of this channel to be able to access an Excel file. We can, of course, do live collaboration together on this file as well. I also have a shared calendar. This is called a channel calendar, so it's directly related to the employment channel that I am actively in, where we could actually be putting things out here. Like, let's say that we're going to have a meeting about all of the new upcoming employees that we need to hire for this next quarter. We could actually put that in this calendar so everybody can see it. I also have this employee onboarding, which is actually a list. This is a Microsoft app called Lists. Also can be used through SharePoint, etc., where we can have columns and rows and an interactive list with workflows and different things. I also have a shared notebook. So a OneNote notebook can also be shared directly here through Teams. Also, we have connectivity to SharePoint and using it on its own as an app. But you can see that having these channels with these teams gives us all of the collaboration tools that we need to really work together. We don't have to have one person maintaining one thing, another person maintaining something else. We all can be working together. So Macy, did we have a question? Sorry, you're muted.
We had somebody say that you were cutting in and out a little bit. So if you
Oh.
could just repeat the last little bit.
So when I was referring to the OneNote notebook, we have access to all these different shared apps directly here through these tabs within an actual channel. So you can see that up at the top, I have all these different tabs, which are really accessing apps of information that we can be sharing together as a group, whoever has rights to that specific channel. But I do want to briefly mention that on my list of teams, I have this one called Clinic. If I go to this Clinic team, I really just have two different channels, but if I go to the general channel, this is actually a team coming directly from SharePoint. So the connectivity with Teams and SharePoint is unbelievable. We connect with a lot of different things, but this was actually a SharePoint site that I created. But when I created it, I chose it to be a team site. When I do that, it automatically creates the team in Microsoft Teams. So it does that by default. So anybody that is a member, owner, or visitor of that specific SharePoint site actually has this in Microsoft Teams as well, where once again, we can be doing that collaborating. So inside this program called Teams, we also have Teams. And then also on the left-hand side, we have Calendar. The calendar is syncing directly to your Outlook calendar. If you create a meeting in the calendar, like let's say that I navigate to a couple weeks out here, and if I decide that I want to create a new appointment, a new meeting, I can just go to the time that I want to create it, fill it out. And basically, when you do this in Microsoft Teams, it's different than doing it in Outlook. It's going to automatically create it as a Teams meeting. That's one thing that it's going to do. Second is that we can actually connect it to a channel. So if we're going to be doing a meeting that's related to employment, I'm going to invite everybody and I'm going to connect it to that channel. So I'm going to go to add channel. I'm going to go to my HR department team. I'm going to choose employment so that it is directly connected to that channel. It will be in the post. We can take meeting notes and have the meeting notes be available on a tab in that channel. We have connectivity all over the place. It is going to add it to my Outlook calendar as well. So I would see it if I'm in Outlook calendar, but by default, it gives you special features that we don't get in Outlook. Now, I'm not really going to send that, but just so you're aware of the fact that if you actually do that through Teams, you can connect it to a channel. We can create a Teams meeting in Outlook, but we cannot connect it to a channel as of today, just so you know. But I want to continue on the left-hand side here for our last few minutes on the calls category. The calls category, I do a lot of calling through Teams. Like, let's say that I was chatting back and forth with someone and we really just need to talk for a minute. The benefit of doing a call is it doesn't have to be pre-scheduled or anything like that, like a meeting. I just want to call someone or call multiple people. I could share my screen during a call. I also have the capability of sharing files during a call. I can record the call. So if we want to review it later, all of that can be done with a call. What we're missing that a meeting does is the ability to have whiteboards, and we don't usually do all of that in a call, and the meeting notes. You won't have access to being able to create and collaborate together on the meeting notes. But I really love having the call feature. I use it quite often, actually. But my favorite part of the left-hand side is files. On the files category on the left-hand side, you will find it automatically opens you to your recent category of all the files that you've been working on. So I happen to be working on this HR department notebook recently. I also was working on this new employees list. I have Loop. I have this business expenses. These are the files that I was recently working on. These are my cloud-based files, not files coming from my C drive or my network drives or anything like that. It's cloud-based. And I can actually see where they are located at, whether they're coming from my personal, or I should say my business OneDrive, or they're coming from a SharePoint site, or they're coming directly from a team channel. I can have access to those files directly here. So if I have a file that I actually want to use, all I have to do is click on the file name, and it's going to automatically open it directly here in Teams. And if it's shared with somebody else, they're going to be able to do live collaboration with me on that specific file. Macy, did we have a question?
Yes, somebody wants to know if you can access files offline.
Yes, as a matter of fact, you can. So if you have any cloud-based files, and let's say that I'm not going to be connected to the internet, but I want to still be able to work on a file, I can actually do so in File Explorer. Let me kind of bring my File Explorer over here. Oops, sorry. There it is. So I'm going to bring my File Explorer over, because in File Explorer, if I go to my OneDrive, which I also have access to so these have a chain link on them. These are coming directly from SharePoint, which of course can be my team files as well. These are all synced. So when I right click on these, just so you can see how this feature works, always keep on this device. These are cloud-based files, meaning they're stored up in the cloud. But I can have this always available on my device so that if I don't have access to the internet right now, I can still come and work on a file from here. And as soon as I reconnect to the internet, it automatically syncs it back up. Okay. So hopefully that helped. Okay. So sync capabilities are absolutely wonderful. All right. So a couple of other things that I wanted to briefly mention when we're in that files category on the left-hand side, what you're going to see is I could go into different categories like my files. My files is my OneDrive. So it's filtering the files to just show me what I have in my OneDrive. I also could go to shared. So this is like opening up your actual OneDrive online. But I don't have to go someplace else to utilize it. I'm in Teams. I'm going to stay in Teams to do all of this. So just so you could see, you have access to that same capability. And also on the left-hand side, if you happen to be an admin, you have access to your admin options. But I use Planner and To Do a lot. On the left-hand side, if I click on the menu, ... it's going to give me access to other Microsoft apps that I can be using directly here through Teams. So I'm going to click on Tasks by Planner and To Do. I can pin it on the left-hand side so it's here all the time. So I can right-click on the icon, say Pin, and it will stay here all the time, which I normally have it like this, because this is actually the same as what I would see if I open the to-dos online. If I go to Outlook and open up to-dos, so let me jump back to Outlook for just 1 second. On the left-hand side, if I go to do, I open my to-do, I have access to the same things that I'm showing you in Teams. I have my day, I have planned, I have my tasks that are assigned to me, I have my flagged emails, which I mentioned earlier. Here's that rental liability waiver that I received back from the client. You know, all of this information is accessible in multiple places. I love having it here in Teams because why do I want to leave one program to open up another one when I can do it right here? I don't have to worry about jumping through hoops to go someplace else. Okay. I do see that we have a hand raised. Macy, was there someone with another question that we need to address? Sorry.
Yes, it looks like Kathy has her hand raised. Kathy, do you have a question? No, it may have just been an accidental hand raise.
Okay, no problem. No problem. So you can add shortcuts to all these other apps directly here in Teams. We can also do some of that now in Outlook on the left-hand side as well. We have lots of places to do the same things, which is fantastic. But these are time savers. We complain all the time about not having enough time in the day to get everything done. Take advantage of the applications that you have and learn them a little bit more. Learn these inside little tips and tricks to have you become more efficient, have you become and stay more organized. These little time saver things, I'm averaging, I kind of gauge things different ways, but I kind of average about half an hour that I gain every day by using a couple of these wonderful features that we talked about here today. Now, there is a little bit more information in your handout that I wanted to mention. I do have some information about your presence, which is referring to that red dot or the circle with the X that I saw on another coworker. That helps you to know if somebody is available or not. We can see it in Outlook, we can see it in Teams, we can see it in a lot of different places. So like if I go back to my email, I know if somebody is available just by going to their profile circle. You can see that my profile circle is showing that I'm busy. It's showing a red dot. So you want to be looking at that to see if the person is available or not. So we know if we should be communicating with them and how we should be communicating. So there's a list of the different presence icons that you will see, and then a little bit of Teams etiquette at the bottom. We have a do not disturb option. Do not disturb does stop you from doing some things, but we could still chat with someone. Should you be chatting with someone if their circle is red? The answer is no. You want to kind of think about the best practices when it comes to using these apps. Should I be chatting? Should I be emailing? So you can read through a little bit of information going to page 17 with some things to consider as well. So do we have any more questions that were brought up by the group now that we're kind of getting here to the end of our session?
It looks like we have just two that were in the chat. One of them was, can you schedule the quick step email to go out monthly automatically?
Unfortunately, we cannot. Now, could we create a workflow that is going to do something by sending out an email based on a trigger from something else? Yes, we can. So technically we could do a delayed delivery, but that would be the only way to trigger it to go out at a specific time directly through Outlook. Otherwise, with our Power Apps through Microsoft 365, you can develop something through that as well. Okay, because it all depends on what the triggers are going to be. What's triggering it to be sent? Okay.
And then just the last question was, is the channels the same in Teams like it is in SharePoint or like in Slack?
So when it comes to SharePoint, they don't really use channels, so to say. So I'm not real sure what they're referring to, like within Slack or within SharePoint as far as channels are concerned. But in Microsoft Teams, the benefit of the channels is that we can have a name of a team, and then every channel is a way to organize the different topics related to the name of the team. So everything that is related to a specific category, like I have this Microsoft 365 team, I have this channel called Admin Guide. So everything related to the administrators of Microsoft 365, we communicate in that private channel. So if it's related to apps, it goes to the apps channel. So in SharePoint, how that would actually work is we would have either different pages within a site, or we would have subsites to the main site or the hub site or the subsite's subsite, so to say. There's a lot of hierarchies that can go into that. Okay.
Hey, I wanted to, I wanted to add one thing, just so everybody knows about this on the sync feature.
Yes.
There are some really important limitations. Microsoft's client that handles the syncing is called OneDrive. And once it gets to about 250,000 files, it starts to choke.
Yes.
And so I just want to caution everybody that if you've got a team with a lot of files in it, or a SharePoint library with a lot of files in it, and you hit sync, you could be asking for a disaster. So just be very, very cautious about trying to sync large libraries or corporate wide, like choosing, and that's not per library. So if you chose 10 libraries that each had 25,000 files in them, you would hit the limit and you'd start to have some serious problems.
I'm glad you brought that up, Paul. And what I usually will do is I will only sync when I know I'm going to be leaving the office and I know I'm going to be having that, no internet connection, and I want to make sure that I can access my files. Then I can come back and I can turn that back off.
Yeah.
So I can always go back and right click and then click on that always keep on this device so that it doesn't sync it anymore. If I need it again later, I can go back and change that. So that's a good point you brought up, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well,
any other questions?
I think our Q&A is, don't see any more questions popping in, but anybody's welcome to ask anything. We do have 2 more webinars coming up. First, I want to just say thanks to Jolynn. Great job. I think the send a chat on a schedule, I didn't know about that. That may change my life.
Yes.
And so a couple other things, and there were some questions some people had about the newer version of Outlook. I do use the newer version, and there are definitely things that are missing. I don't know that they're adding them back. I don't know what that's going to look like, but like the cleanup thing doesn't exist yet. So just to be aware of that. But thanks to Joe Lynch, she did a fantastic job. Excellent. There's a lot of great information. We will make the recording available. We'll email it out to everybody that was a part of it. But we do have 2 others coming up. We did a webinar on ChatGPT. It was really more about AI, and this one's going to be more focused on ChatGPT as a business tool. And there's so much that you can do with ChatGPT as a business tool now. So that's coming up into September. And then we'll do one on the fundamentals of cybersecurity. It's coming up at near the end of October. So we will send out these as emails to register, and they'll also be on LinkedIn and Facebook and all of our other platforms that we put that stuff on. So please join us for those. They'll both be very, very helpful. So, and thanks again. Yeah, if you have any other questions, you can call us. You can also send there's a contact us form on our website. You can also send an email. I don't know whose email I would actually tell you to send it to, but maybe Macy. which is mbrink at theitco.net. So MBRINK at theitco.net. Or call us. Feel free to call, reach out to us, and thanks for joining us. And really appreciate it. Great job again, Jolynn. Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right,
everyone.
that's it. See you.
Bye.